Thanks, Mohit. I did warn you not to tell people about my pageant life because everyone immediately assumes I'm dumb. I'm in fact not that dumb. Um, and the second thing is the toughest part about reading this book for me actually was, getting the name of the author right. I mean, I've tried over the years. I've read this book a few times now. I forget it because it's hard, but it's pronounced Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. Um, and this gentleman whose name is an alphabet soup is actually a Hungarian-American psychologist. And the reason I read this book is because there was a time in my life when I'd achieved a lot for the age at which I was, but I found myself deeply unhappy and still, deeply felt like I had unmet needs and unfulfilled needs. And I said, that cannot be right because I have everything. I'm blessed in many different ways. And like anyone would have it, and we spoke about Wheel of Life. The Wheel of Life is bumpy. And then there was one particular bump in my life where everything I'd learned about myself and how I approach life, how I enjoy life, I had to question all of that. And there were a few books I read during that point of, trying to face that adversity. And Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, who's a concentration camp survivor. Many of you would have definitely read it. How Will You Measure Your Life by Clayton Christensen. And Flow have stuck with me. They've found a permanent place on my bookshelf. But this is one book I go back to more frequently because it's a seminal work on psychology. And while the other two are, I would say, more philosophical, this book has key takeaways that I've used throughout my life in the past few years. And it helps ground me. Because you forget and you need to remind yourself on what does a good life mean to you and how do you achieve that. But really, for me, this book is about just going with the flow, right? And it is really helped reorder my own way of thinking about life and helping me achieve what I call that flow. And so this is Diogenes, who is a Greek philosopher. And this man used to roam the street of Athens with a lantern in his hand during the day. And he was known to say that he's looking for an honest man. And it's really hard to do that because he believed that people were corrupt and Athens was, not what it was supposed to be. But I say you can probably find an honest man, but it's really hard to find a truly happy person. And we're all looking for happiness. We're all looking for meaning. So the search continues. So if you see me with a lantern during the day, you know why. So now I move to key takeaways. I come from the investment world. So I had to make some slides because one, I didn't want to go all over the place. But also I was at the end of our discussion about this book, I wanted you to go away with some key takeaways as well. And hopefully, be a little bit more curious about this book, and then maybe it'll make you want to read it. So this is my first takeaway that as humans, we've used religion and external rewards to find happiness and to find meaning. And with many religions, we had rules to live by, which probably suited the society at that point of time. But we know that some rules become outdated, we can't really apply it, and no matter how much we love a certain religion or follow a certain religion, it's probably not enough. There's also other external rewards we seek, such as, pursuing power, pursuing wealth, pursuing fame. But the research in this book suggests that this is not enough. This is not enough to make people happy or at least preserve that happiness in the long term. So the other key takeaway is that genetically we are like light. We want to search for the shortest route, right? So we're very, very used to pain-free escapism, and that just means I think for a lot of us, Netflix and chill at the end of a very, very hard day at work. And we're constantly pursuing short-term pleasure versus things that you can really enjoy. And I know like my mom cooked every meal from scratch when we were growing up, but now, prefer Swiggy. Honestly, it's convenient. But the enjoyment of like making something from scratch, like putting your heart and soul into it, that is enjoyment. And we're like so like focused on the former that there are very few things in the enjoyment segment that we really, try to pursue. And I think a very good example here is, I put this picture of a surgeon because I'm sure like surgery is not enjoyable in any way, but what I'm trying to say here is that if you do something with a lot of care and a lot of thought, and when you get immediate feedback and you know what the outcome is, that activity becomes very enjoyable. And while, the feeling of enjoyment is universal, the goals are unique to each of us. For example, so my goal, let's say, is to, no, it is not my goal, but let's say I met someone yesterday who ran the Ironman. And so that's her goal. That's not an achievable goal for me. Because I think there was a lot of research again in the book that showed that the skills you have should match the challenge you're setting yourself up against. And when you have clear goals that you can reach, and there is like that golden equilibrium where, you challenge yourself just enough so that you're able to meet that goal and then push yourself further, that really, constitutes so much enjoyment. So this one I really like because a heightened state of awareness for me is something I go back to on a daily basis. And I think a very good example here is music, because it engages our senses. It's analogic in the sense that you start thinking about, I'm not a musician, but there's a DJ here, but you start thinking about how that music is written, perhaps, and then you start comparing it to maybe other forms of music. And this is why I love reading as well, because it engages me in all different ways. It makes me mindful. And when we sort of look outward versus like, going inward about, oh my God, I should have done that. I do this. I don't think this is a universal phenomenon, but I should have done that better. And instead we look at the world externally and enjoy the different fields of knowledge we pursue, for example, or spend time with the people we admire. We are again in a constant state of flow. And this again, focus attention, right? Because apparently we now have the attention span of a goldfish. Is that like 0.2 seconds? I don't know. So all of us, so many of us are dealing with anxiety because, there's so much stimulus. And I think there's, again, so many examples of people, situations where we talk about, reminding ourselves that and to trust ourselves and say that we have the ability to handle situations as they arise. And then again, directing attention outwards versus like being focused on whatever thoughts you have in your mind at the time. And again, work. So there was one example of an Italian community in the hills who did not have a concept of work time and free time. So they had to wake up at 5 a.m., milk the cows, etc. And when a bunch of people asked them, like, what would you do if you had like a lot more wealth? They just couldn't imagine like what else they would want from what they have. So, and for me, that is flow in the work you find. If you love the work, if you find work that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And the most important element, again, is family, friends, and community, because it's an opportunity to get honest feedback. It's an opportunity to feel like you're welcome despite who you've chosen to become and what interests you've you're pursuing. So in that sense, it's differentiated in the sense that each one of us can be different, but you're still like an integral part of one unit. And finally, very important to discover your purpose in life, which means it's really important to have clear goals and a strong resolve to go after that goal. And imagine if all of us were like this, maybe we're going to move to Mars in about 5 years from now. So my the way I would summarize this book is that if I want to lead an optimal life, I will not be influenced by external rewards, by which I mean how I'm doing in terms of how well I'm doing in my career, how well, how many achievements I have, and how much power, fame, or money is begotten because of various factors is less important. The opinions of others is less important. And I would say, like, I can see who you are on the outside, but show me who you are on the inside. So yeah, beautiful book. Encourage all of you to read it. And thank you, Mohit, for organizing. It's a great topic and great books. Thank you. Yeah.